Everyone, welcome to the June 19th, 2018 meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court. We're glad you're with us. We'll begin, as we always do, with an invocation, and we're very glad to have with us Pastor Cindy Green, Associate Pastor of Henderson First United Methodist Church. If you would join us, please, and join us in prayer. Please stand.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin the work of the city's fiscal court. As we gather to make decisions for our community, may each of these servant leaders use only their best skills and judgment. May all work together fairly and justly as we consider the matters before us. May we be blessed with insight and be guided by your heavenly understanding and wisdom. May the matters discussed and hammered out here be done with respect. O Lord, help us to accomplish our goals today while displaying your character. For it is in the mighty name of Jesus that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Green. Appreciate you being here this morning. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Master Putman.
Here.
Magistrate Warren.
Here.
Magistrate Alexander.
Here.
Magistrate Wilkerson.
Here.
Magistrate Todd.
Here.
Thank you, and very glad to have Magistrate Wilkerson back with us. Feeling strong, looking strong. Missed you all last time. Also glad to have Magistrate Warren back. We have a lengthy agenda this morning. That's the nature of this time of year, and we're going to try to work through this efficiently as possible. We'll begin by reviewing the June 5th minutes of the fiscal court meeting that morning, and after a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other corrections, clarifications, or additions? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman. Magistrate Warren.
Abstain.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson.
Abstain.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
Thank you. First item in your package, gentlemen, is a recommendation for an appointment to the Local Human Relations Commission. Jeffrey Gregory, the Executive Director, has recommended former Fiscal Court Clerk Tootie Cravens to join their board. And I will entertain a motion to accept Mr. Gregory's recommendation.
I'll be glad to make that motion, Judge. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions on that? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Excuse me. Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
We also have with us this morning, I believe, Abby Dixon. Is she here from the Tourist Commission? Abby, would you join us? Executive Director. She's going to be giving us an update on their new board appointments, and we'll be also appointing our representative on her board. Welcome, Abby.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Happy birthday,
Thank
by
you.
the way. So I'm pleased to announce that we are on track with our July 1st timeline to establish the new Henderson Tourist Commission, a joint collaboration between the city and the county. So we're very excited. I just want to thank County Attorney Steve Gold, Judge Schneider, County Treasurer Brenda Ryder-Duncan. You guys have been MVPs in making this a seamless process, and we really, really appreciate that. So as far as appointments to our new board for the Henderson Tourist Commission, we're not recommending any changes. So this is the same board that we have, and those recommendations are as follows. We have Jeff Troxel as a restaurant representative, Christy Staten as the City of Henderson at-large appointment, Rodney Thomas as the Kendall representative, and that was blessed by Tony already. Our hotel representatives would be Mark Keelan from Audubon State Park, Karan Patel from Ramada and Economy Inn, and Nick Patel from Holiday Inn Express. Our recommendation for the county at-large position would be Katie Groves from Farmer and Frenchman.
And Katie Groves has agreed to serve again. We appointed her last term. So our job here today is to accept a motion to approve. Katie Groves is re-upping her term with the Tourist Commission. Can you entertain a motion to approve Katie Groves?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. She will be joining this really good group that has helped ease the transition into a new entity in partnership with the city. And we're excited to see where that leads. Any other questions of Abby? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please call for a vote.
Thank you.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
Thank you, and thank you, Abby. And next, I'd like to call Buzzy Newman up to the podium. Is he here?
Yep.
He has presented to us a change order with the Airport Drainage Project, the Delta Regional Authority project. This is one of those good change orders. The initial grant, which was designed to pay for Phase 1 of that drainage project, is actually going to be enough to cover almost all of Phase 1 and Phase 2. But in order to expend that money on Phase 2, we need to approve this change order. That is basically the news here this morning. It's good news, and they will be able to get through almost all of Phase 2 with the original grant. You have that resolution in your packet, I believe.
No, there's no resolution
I
done
don't see a resolution.
There was no resolution done on it.
We need approval on a change order, so
Yep.
if I can get a motion to approve that change order.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions about that? Hopefully they'll be able to finish that drainage project this calendar year or this summer. So, please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
Thank you, and that passes. At our last fiscal court meeting, we agreed to work with Kindle on following up a promise we made to help incent an expansion at Tyson that included a $22,750 payment, matching a payment that Kindle would make in a similar amount to help them grow, and then they are in a position to claim those incentives now. We agreed to move forward with that, and what you have in front of you is the actual forgivable loan agreement. Any other comments on that, Mr. Gold?
The terms of the agreement were based on what was outlined broadly by Judge McCormick in a letter to Tyson a couple of years ago. And I believe at that time the fiscal court approved that. It was just they weren't in a position to take advantage of it until now, so they're ready at this point.
So I'd like to have our clerk read the resolution, please.
Whereas it is the public policy of the county to encourage, promote, and support economic development, new job formation, and the development and growth of industry and commerce, and to preserve existing jobs in the county for the public purposes of providing employment opportunities for its citizens and residents, alleviating conditions of unemployment, stabilizing and promoting the economy of the county, and creating new tax bases and sources of revenue for the county. And whereas the county and the company have entered into various negotiations with regard to the company's development of a job site and expanded employment within Henderson County, and whereas the company has applied for and has been awarded a local government economic development program grant from the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development pursuant to KRS 42.4588, and said approval included a local job development incentive of a forgivable loan of $250 per job created up to $22,750, and whereas the county has agreed to forgive up to 100% of the loan repayment at the rate of $6.94 per month per full-time job created and maintained, with a maximum forgiveness per month of $631.94. Now for there be it resolved by the Fiscal Court, County of Henderson, as follows, that the Henderson County Fiscal Court hereby authorizes and directs the County Judge Executive Brad Schneider to execute the attached job development incentive grant forgivable loan agreement and to execute any and all necessary and appropriate documents required to effectuate the intent and terms thereof.
And the loan agreement is attached. Any questions on that? You get a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Comments? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman,
Aye.
Magistrate Warren,
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander,
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson,
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
Gentlemen, you also have in your packet a declaration of surplus property from Brent Jacobs. We just replaced our phone system in the courthouse, and Brent would like to sell the old one through the state's website for surplus property. It's a fairly simple transaction, but I'll have clerk read the resolution, please.
A resolution declaring certain county property to be surplus and providing for the disposition thereof. Whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court is the owner of certain personal property that is no longer of use to the county, whereas pursuant to KRS 67.0802, the Fiscal Court finds that it is in the best interest of the county to deem the property as surplus and provide for the disposition thereof. Whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court wishes to offer the said personal property to be sold by public auction, and whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court wishes to offer the said property for sale by electronic auction following publication of the auction in accordance with the law at the discretion of the Henderson County Judge Executive. Now therefore be it resolved by the Fiscal Court, County of Henderson, as follows. Pursuant to KRS 67.0802, the personal property on the list attached hereto and incorporated herein is hereby declared to be surplus. If the attached list designate the personal property to be offered for sale at an online auction, it shall be sold using a duly advertised online auction pursuant to all applicable laws at such time and in such a manner as shall be arranged by the County Judge Executive. If the attached list designate the personal property to be offered at sale at public auction, it will be sold at a duly advertised public auction pursuant to all applicable laws at such time and place and in such a manner as shall be arranged by the County Judge Executive. The County Judge Executive or his designee is hereby authorized to make such arrangements.
And you see attached the short list of items that are going to be auctioned or placed up for auction. Any questions of Mr. Jacobs? You can entertain a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman,
Aye.
Magistrate Warren,
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander,
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson,
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
In the last month, as you well know, that we formed a subcommittee of leadership in our first responder community to help us identify candidates and then select from that group a replacement for longtime EMA Director Larry Kerber, who is retiring at the end of this fiscal year. We once again thank Larry for all his tremendous service to the county, and we're glad to report that we had strong applications, 8 applicants I think in total. The committee met once to winnow that down to a total of 3 applicants that we would then interview, and after the interviews were completed, it was unanimous in choosing Mr. Kenny Garrett, who is currently happens to be Larry's volunteer deputy for several years and also a veteran of volunteer fire department service here in the county, and has been of great service to first responders in our community. So just happened to have the best candidate, the unanimous pick, in-house at the time. And at that, at this point, I'd like to bring Kenny up and Larry, if you don't mind. So I would like to officially report that the committee is offering Kenny Garrett as Larry's replacement. Again, it was a unanimous decision. This included representatives of Henderson Fire Department, Henderson Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, the Volunteer Fire Department Chiefs Association, the Henderson County Road Department, and myself. So it was a good cross-section of people, and to have a unanimous choice, I think, is a compliment to you, Mr. Garrett, and thank you for helping us make the process smooth, Mr. Kerber, in putting out a job description and application. So, Kenny, if there's anything you'd like to say.
I think at this point I'd just like to say thank you and happy birthday. The selection committee, who I've worked with for 20 years or more, most of them, I really appreciate the opportunity to do this, and it's an honor to be selected as the Emergency Management Director for Henderson. I look forward to it.
Any questions of Mr. Garrett? Are there any comments?
Again, happy birthday, Judge. It comes to me that, there comes time when we have to update old equipment because of new technology and all that sort of thing that makes we need to update in order to become efficient and proactive and so on. In this case, it happens to be the old equipment is me, and the new equipment is Kenny, and I think that's going to work out excellent. Kenny does a great job. He's been very astute in all of the things that we do. This is going to make a very good, seamless transition for him to go from deputy director into my position as director. And I said that when the time comes to retire, there are two things that are important. And one of those things is, if I retire, I want to retire because I want to, not because I have to. And so I'm physically, and I don't have any injuries, illness, or anything, so it's going to be retirement because I want to, not because I have to. And I appreciate the fiscal court in support that you've given me over the last 17 years. And I'll look forward to our retirement, but I'll still be in touch and available if you need anything. Thank you.
Excellent. On June 29th, we will be having a reception for Larry in the committee meeting room in the Peabody Building on the first floor, just down the hallway from his office. So please drop by if you can, and we'll be celebrating Larry's service here. Sheriff Brady, if you don't mind, you served on the selection committee. If you wouldn't mind making a comment or two about the process and the eventual recommendation of Mr. Garrett.
Well, I think the committee was pleasantly surprised at the caliber of the people and the qualifications of the people. I didn't expect it. The three top ones, when they interviewed, it was a difficult decision. Any of the three could have done an adequate job, but with Kenny's experience and his past volunteerism to this agency at no charge to the county, we felt like that was a sign of dedication. And I thought it was a great committee. We all got along. We all had open discussions, and the caliber of people that put in for this was great, so the county's in pretty good shape.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just want to thank Larry for his service over the years. He did an excellent job, and we just appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. We're going to read a resolution now recommending Kenny Garrett's appointment.
A resolution relating to the appointment to the position of Henderson County Emergency Management Director. Whereas, as the retirement of Larry Kerber as the Henderson Emergency Management Director as of June 30th, 2018, there will exist a vacancy in said office. And whereas, pursuant to KRS 39B.0201, the County Judge Executive has the authority to appoint an Emergency Management Director. And whereas, after seeking applications, the County Judge Executive has appointed Kenny Garrett to the position of Henderson County Emergency Management Director. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Fiscal Court, County of Henderson, Kentucky, as follows. Pursuant to KRS 39B.0201 and all applicable law, the Henderson Fiscal Court hereby acknowledges the appointment of Kenny Garrett to the position of Henderson County Emergency Management Director effective July 1st, 2018, and his salary, therefore, is hereby fixed at a rate of $42,000 per annum.
Motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other questions? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman,
Aye.
Magistrate Warren,
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander,
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson,
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and we look forward to working with you, Ken. Now I'd like to bring up Mr. Rob Brown, representative of Keiko's insurance concerns, and also Keiko Chairman, President Brian Roy. Glad to have you with us this morning, and thought it'd be good to bring Rob to discuss the policy we're about to implement for next fiscal year after, as you well know, long review, lots of considerations, including recommendations from both subcommittee appointed for this purpose and the input of department heads, choosing to renew our Keiko policy with some slight adjustments that Rob's going to go over that enabled us to get some savings year over year. Go ahead, Rob.
Thanks, Judge. Brian Roy had asked to come and address you all following our last meeting, so I wanted to give Brian the chance to speak to the court and just give an update on Keiko and go from there.
Thank you, Rob. Good morning, Judge. Good morning, members of the Fiscal Court. Mr.
Morning.
Prosecutor, how are you this morning? Looking good with your beard there, but happy birthday, Judge. Yesterday was Keiko's 44th birthday, so we had a celebration in Frankfort to recognize 44 years of county elected officials all across the state banding together to create the programs that we have in place today. It would not be unfortunate, but like Sheriff Brady, I've got enough gray hair on my head. Actually, I've got more hair than Sheriff Brady has on his head. But we were around back then, and in 1978 was the first year that I began working in county government. I was working for Judge Miller. I was managing an ambulance service. And when Keiko was formed in 74, it was created to be an advocacy group for county elected officials across the state. In 1978, we woke up one morning and the private insurance market for workers' compensation decided that they were going to pull out of the state of Kentucky. So what happened was there was a void, and the elected officials who own Keiko, and that's one of the things that I'm proudest of. I'm a former elected official, having served as sheriff in Marshall County, but Kentucky Associations of Counties is created by, through, and for, and is owned entirely by the county elected officials across the state. So at the moment when there was no workers' compensation, Keiko joined together and the elected officials came up with a plan to self-insure this fund. It wasn't something that they looked upon to be a profit center. It wasn't something that they looked upon to be an opportunity to go make money with. It was created only to satisfy a need that all of us were facing without workers' compensation. Same thing happened in the early 80s when I was sheriff in Marshall County. I had my vehicles all insured locally. I was proud to have them through the local agent on the court square, not only because he was local, but that he was a voter of mine and he was a friend of mine. We went to church together and we had a great relationship. It was the same type of phone call that came about this time of the morning when he told me, I don't know what's going on, but I can no longer insure your vehicles. So once again, the Kentucky Association of Counties gathered together through their elected officials, who are the owners, and came up with a plan to create a pool to allow us to do the CAF and the property and insurance programs. Same thing happened in health insurance. You're not here to talk about health insurance today, but every program that I'm honored to get to represent you all and work for you all on is because of a need that came up several years ago that counties needed to find a way to do what they do and to be able to do it better for their local communities, like right here in Henderson County. So I'm just tickled to death, and Rob has kind of kept me up to date, and I've kept up with the discussions that have gone on insurance. I'm very happy that you all have looked at our program. I'm very happy to have heard a couple of the comments and the concerns. I do want you to know that when you're talking about local, it doesn't get more local than the people sitting behind that podium and that chair, because you own Keiko, and I hope that we try to provide you services. I hope we try to provide you training, not just for you all, but for all county elected officials. The sheriff's office, we provide regular trainings. We try to find ways not just to ensure them better, but our top priority for sheriffs and law enforcement and jails and every group of folks that we represent is to keep them safe to where they can go home and be with their families at night. So through that, we put together programs like a firearm simulator program that's available through our loss control folks. We make it available all across the state where you don't have to come to us. Hopefully we bring it to you. We make it available for the sheriff and the other people that are doing training to go out and train. Well, one of the things got expensive a few years ago, and I don't know how many know, sheriff would probably know, ammunition got terribly expensive, and what we found coming from county elected officials was there wasn't the money in the budget to continuously buy ammunition to go out to the target range and shoot. The firearm simulator allows them at least one opportunity a year to have quality training, and you know what? It costs you no ammunition, so it's a savings, but it's also a good time to have one-on-one training. Jails, we provide training because tough environment. I'm surprised that some markets even offer insurance, and I'm interested in the one that did apply this year. But probably the number one reason most insurance companies do not try to come in and offer insurance to fiscal courts is because jails are such a high liability that it is just very difficult to get companies to quote. There are huge claims, so what do we do in response to that is we try to keep the zeros off the check, and we try to make it available to offer training programs and safety programs. The biggest training that I tried to propose, and I was in loss control for a few years and I covered this area, but the biggest thing that we can do at a jail is to make sure that they have adequate jail classification training to keep different inmates from different inmates that may get together and have injuries or harm to each other, and then try to make sure that our officers are trained not only in the skills to keep them safe, but to also allow them verbal training skills to de-escalate problems before they begin. So again, I think it's another opportunity that with you owning the programs, that you send us messages to our board and our boards. Bruce is on one of our boards and has been for a long time. We appreciate him serving, but those boards are not insurance people that are trying to figure out the next rate or the next increase. It's people that are trying to solve problems, and so it's elected officials that own it. They are represented on the boards. I have a contract, and I work for each of you and every county elected official across the state. I take it very seriously, and I want those programs to continue to be in existence, not because it's an opportunity for us to make money. And any monies that we do make, I do want you to know that we make it available for our member services training, for your training that you get incentive hours for. Some of the profits that do come from our insurance program come back to you in those ways through legislative advocacy. Shelley Hampton and the work that she does and some of the others are all a part of the program, so your money is going to that as well. And I think one of the biggest things that I can come to offer you in my time at the helm is that you are an owner. So if you're a stockholder and you're an owner, my job is to fight to make sure that the programs we offer you a return on your investment. And so when that dividend or that rate decrease comes along, it comes back to you in real dollars to the Henderson County community and all the other counties across the state. So I wanted to come just to support Rob in his effort today. I appreciate competition. We value it, but we also value more the fact that you own the program. It's your program to decide how you want to proceed or not to proceed, and we respect your value here at the local fiscal court, but we appreciate your membership, and more than that, we appreciate the ownership that you all have in CAECO and each of our programs. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. Happy birthday again. And if you have any questions for me when Rob's finished or any time throughout, you feel free to just call me back up, Judge, and I'll be happy to do so.
Thank you for being here this morning, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Comments
Thank
are
you.
appreciated.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian. So Judge Schneider had asked me to basically do a brief recap of kind of the events that have taken place since our last meeting. And as promised, we worked together to determine the right balance of deductibles and limits for the county, and have come up with our final premium for the group. I believe you guys have that in your packet. The CAF premium is going to be at $256,431, which includes $19,000 for an earthquake policy for $5 million in blanket coverage, and with a $25,000 deductible, which is a real nice addition to your coverage. Even with this addition, your premiums are still lower than the prior fiscal year. I'll give you an aggregate of the percentage in a second. The workers' compensation remained at $222,757, which was a 2% decrease over the prior year to begin with. And net, all of the reduction, your total premium is $479,188, which is an 8% reduction from the prior fiscal year. And that's with the enhancements to earthquake. It's with the enhancements that I believe you also have in your packet for the various coverage improvements for moving defense outside the limits, an addition of molestation, abuse, an increase in our legal defense coverage to $200,000. A stated amount option for you all for properties that you may have that are vacant or unoccupied. The addition of violent events coverage to the policy, addition of a failure to supply, and finally, and Brian is very high on this coverage, an addition of the ability to insure drones in the program. I know that you all have are in the, I guess, in the stages of having a training area for drones here in the county, and hopefully we can find an opportunity to bring our training team out to do an on-site there for the area. So we'll plan to do that. So I think overall, you've got coverage improvements. We've added the earthquake, and we have achieved deductible savings to the betterment of the program.
And to enable those savings, even with the additional coverage, we made a couple deductions to deductibles, raised deductibles in a couple areas, but only slightly. And we maintain $3 and $5 million limits in most categories, and I feel much more comfortable now having earthquake insurance as part of our coverage. The county's never had that before, and I thought that was important. And I know the Sheriff's Department is glad to hear about the drone coverage, being very active and enthusiastic drone operators now. So I'm sure that's a coverage that counties across the state will appreciate. Any questions of Rob?
I've got a couple questions, and I apologize I was not able to be at the last meeting. I had my daughter was involved in an activity that I had to attend. One of the questions I wanted to ask about, though, was on the general liability. I think you had $3 million. And I guess my question, in comparison to some of the other proposals, as well as like with city government, they have $10 to $12 million. Is there a reason why you didn't feel like we should have that amount available? It seems like even individuals will have $1 to $5 million. So if you can maybe explain why we do not need a higher liability.
Sure. So excellent question, and I understand the family first reason to miss. The program itself, CAECO has built their program around two limits essentially for the membership. One that we call our standard program, which is a $3 million any one occurrence, $5 million aggregate program. The other is a $1 million any one occurrence, $3 million program. When you look at the membership of the program, We have fiscal courts, obviously, that where we insure 113 of the 117 eligible counties. They all but 2 have our standard program, which is the $3 million program. The 2 that do not are uniquely large county operations. The rest of our membership in the program has any variety of the $1 million program and the standard program. We do have a few transits who have a slightly higher limit, but the program has been built on those limits since 1987. Are there higher limit programs out there offered by Tokyo, offered by other carriers? Yes. What's the right limit? I think that's the $1 million question. But the comfort of our program and how we have applied those limits across the membership for the last, since 1987, so was that 40 years? Those limits have been adequate. We haven't seen losses that have caused us to think those aren't adequate limits for the members. We did, as one of the key enhancements in the program this year, move our defense outside of those limits. So not by default, but by practice, the limits are actually improved in the package by moving defense costs out, so that it doesn't diminish any of the each occurrence limit. I think there's a line of thought that plaintiffs' attorneys in particular will establish their cases around what are the policy limits available in to any entity that they're pursuing for litigation. I think that part of the benefit really of CAECO is the flexibility to have these kinds of discussions. I can assure you already we've started to have a discussion of, do we need to revisit our standard program? Do we need to offer higher limits as a standard number? But there's a lot of discussion to be had for that. But from a perspective of county governments in the state of Kentucky, 111 others that we work with have your same limit. So I hope that addresses that. Yes, sir.
Let me interrupt one more time, but to answer your question, our boards take a look at that on the policy limits, and as Rob just took a second, I don't think it's a secret, and counselor, no offense to the profession, but if you raise your limits, when the attorneys come in to file their claims, they're asking for policy limits. So as a board, and as we review these things annually, it's been decided to try to keep them on the lower side because, as Rob mentioned, almost all of the claims do not exceed that amount. And if we raised it, then I feel like that we would be opening the door. It's not that we don't address them, and we had one account up in northern Kentucky that had a large claim with a lot of liability, so they wanted to up theirs, so you can do it individually, but we just always felt like to be more conservative was the better course. And so when they're asking for policy limits, they look at it, and it makes them much more able to communicate to try to settle the claim. And so we go to work trying to settle it up front. We involve local attorneys. We let you kind of participate in the legal process, and we try to keep that to where it doesn't grow and grow and grow, which costs you money and it costs our fund money. So we do talk about the coverage limits. We talk about the coverages. That's why we've added some things this year. We needed to be more proactive on some of the technology changes like drones and things like that. So we want to offer the coverages that you need, but we want to be conservative enough to make sure that we just don't open Pandora's box and let a lot of new higher claims come in with intuitive lawyers that know how to get the money. We try to keep the money if we can. I just wanted to throw that in.
And I've got one more. Brian, while you're up here,
Yes,
maybe
sir.
you can answer this. And I'll quickly say, part of the reason why I'm going to ask this next question is because I was with the Chamber of Commerce for 20-something years, so I really am very loyal to the local scenario. Okay?
Absolutely.
So, and I know Mike happens to be here today, but in the case of local representation, is there and I believe this is correct, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. A local representative insurance company could represent CAECO.
Absolutely. EM Ford represents us in a few other accounts now, which is kind of why we're finding ourselves adverse here, which is a little unusual. But can I explain my version of local?
Okay.
I believe, just like you do, if you'll check my vehicles, they're American made. If you check the things that I buy, I try to buy everything that I can American. And when you refer to local, I think local's important, and I appreciate the people that are out here trying to competitively compete for business. They're on a commission. I value that. I've been in business myself as well. But when I look at local, I think of Kentucky, and every dollar that you spend with us stays in Kentucky, which to me is more local across the entire 120 counties. So your money stays in Kentucky. It's managed. We try to do everything that we can with a Kentucky company. Our reinsurance and stuff like that, unfortunately, has to go out of state. But we think local means within the Commonwealth. And so when we're looking at local, that's what we try to think about. And we feel like we are local. And with your folks being at the local level and you own CAECO, that's what we try to do.
And your definition is good. I just don't look at it as Kentucky as being local, because Louisville competes with us for opportunity, jobs, creation, et cetera, et cetera.
I understand that, but
So-
I'm thinking of the insurance products where it's an international company and the premiums go to another company or somewhere to compete with us somewhere else. So
And the only reason why, again, going back to local, I bring this up is, and I know we're staying within our 5% variance, but with this size project, we're looking at $25,000, $26,000, and that's a substantial variation unless something has changed that for us to forego when we look at, I was looking at fire hydrants, and it was a struggle to get the $25,000 for fire hydrants, and yet we're letting $25,000 go here that, you know.
of course, what I would offer back is the value you get in the other products that you get from Kentucky Association of Counties through your ownership in CAECO. And I would think that when you add Shelley's part for the legislative advocacy, which one thing that we think will have a great return is the changes in the workers' comp law. CAECO was involved in that from day one. We worked very hard to try to make sure that that didn't abuse any rights of the employees that are working for counties, but at the same time there were changes that needed to be made to protect the future and the solvency of the fund, including CAECO's. So that money goes towards that. The firearm simulator, those things cost $50,000, $60,000 per unit, so we feel like that's a part of it. So it's not just totally that, but I appreciate your comments, and I believe in local, and anytime I can buy on the court square back home, I do. But then when I have to look at it from my perspective, I just try to keep it local within the state, and I share it with we're in 113 counties, but we represent 120, and we're proud to do so, and we're very proud to have the relationship we do with Henderson County. And we work with many local agents all across the state because of the comments that you made. We want them to be involved in the local community. We want to offer products that are geared towards and understood by county elected officials, because it's different in the needs. And when you have a problem here, you can pick up the phone and reach me 24/7, and I feel like that's an attribute as well. So I appreciate what you're saying, and it's nothing negative. And if you shop local, we're good. We just want to make sure that we protect the solvency of the program in the event that an insurance company that's out there today pulls out of the market. It's very difficult, and it took many years to build up the reserves that we have to offer a product that we do now. So.
And I respect what the committee did. Judge, you spent, and others, Charles, quite a bit of time. It's just, again, my loyalty.
Oh, totally understand.
And if I'd been here 2 weeks ago, I would have said the same thing, that I think Mike does a tremendous job with.
Hey, I'm a fan of local government. County government is where it's at. I feel like it's the strongest leg, and that's because local people vote at the local level, and the interaction is here in your community. You'll never hear us not agree with that. So,
and just to clarify, George, on the premiums, after all the deductible amendments and the addition of the earthquake and addition of some additional limits in the jail, the comparable of $479,188, which is the CAECO total premium, which is an 8% decrease over last year, was compared to $466,456. from the Tokyo Travelers Kimi option. So
13,000.
3%.
And the limits and the coverage was all the same?
For our program, yes. The program.
What
Keiko.
about compared to the Tokyo program?
So the Tokyo program offered higher limits and higher deductibles. The Keiko program, the hallmark of the Keiko program is the package concept of limits, plus the option to have the lowest deductibles in the marketplace. So no, the Tokyo program does have higher limits.
And I guess last question, what would be the possibility of Mike working with, and I hate to put it right here, but working with you as a local, is there like a relationship that can be developed, or should we go down that path?
It's my understanding that this program of Keiko's is viewed as an antiquated model from Mike. So we would have to have a serious discussion about that, probably offline.
Okay.
We used to have LIDA
Yeah.
as our, wasn't LIDA our local? That was health insurance.
No, Lada did represent Keiko for a while, and that was changed a couple of administrations ago.
Any other questions? As a continuation of we'll save this for good of the county, Mike. As a continuation of an existing policy, we don't really require a vote. We took a vote last meeting to move forward with this, so there's no action to be taken here. We just thought it'd be good to bring Rob and Brian forward to give us an update on the policy going forward. So, thank you, Rob.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
I'd like to call up Angela Hagedorn if you have any comments you'd like to make about the animal control reports that are in our packet.
Good morning, everyone. Happy
Morning.
birthday, Judge.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions or concerns? Have you ever had an opportunity to review the financials?
Does the loss that you're showing reflect, didn't we talk about that the flooding had a big impact
Yes.
on your revenues and expenses?
Also, we've had some court cases in which we've had to hold on to seized animals for an extended period of time, and they require medical treatment and other things. So we've had increased expenses as far as making sure that they say proper vetting, care of, and stuff like that. We also, Katie and I also had gone to training in May, which was another expense that I thought I had buffered for, and I just had not buffered enough for. It's just different expenses come up whenever you have court case dogs that you're having to manage, and so.
You're doing fine. I just worry about, showing the loss that we want you to survive.
Yes.
Well, but it has decreased down to 6 from 9.
Yes.
So it is going in the right direction.
Yes.
Given all that's happened this year from Mother
Yes.
Nature. So.
Exactly, because we did have to do quite a bit during the flooding. So, and it's summertime, and so we're out on the road a lot. That's why my cohort isn't here today. It's summertime, so I did want to remind everyone. Proper shelter means 3 sides and a roof, and that shelter needs to be in the shade because a doghouse in the middle of the yard is just a cooker and is not going to be useful to that animal. Water needs to be checked frequently because you set a glass of water outside and it's not going to take long before that glass of water is hot and they're not going to want to drink that. It's not adequate water for that animal. Make sure they have adequate food. Animals just need to be checked on. Our welfare checks have increased by, I figured it up, almost 75% because of the heat. So there's not a law against animals being outside, but there are ordinances about proper care of. And so I'm respectfully asking the public to make sure that if you have an animal, make sure it's taken care of. Think about what you would want outside. If your child is playing outside, you're going to put the playhouse in the shade where they can enjoy that playhouse. If you are going to give them something to drink, you're going to give them a popsicle that is cold. You're going to give them a glass of ice water. So those are kind of things that I would respectfully ask the public to make sure that they're being mindful of. Because it's not a fun thing to go up to do a welfare check and the animal's already expired. And it's because they're tethered and there's no shade and there's no water. So.
Well, Angie, to put a fine point on the issue about the court case animals, I think it's worthwhile to point out to the fiscal court that the current state statutes and our current county ordinance in some ways encourage people to spend a whole lot of time litigating these things that are fine only. And in that situation, what that requires is for animal control to hang on to the animal. It's kind of in limbo, and a lot of them do have serious medical conditions that have to be dealt with during that time period, and all of that is on the shelter. And that's something I really think that in the future we need to be working with animal control to work on our local ordinances to deal with some of those issues and get rid of some of those odd incentives within our ordinance.
Yes, I would greatly appreciate that. That would be tremendous because animals are deemed property, but they are a different type of property. This is a living being that needs to be properly cared for, and yes, that would be tremendous.
We can continue that conversation in future dates.
Okay. Are there any other questions or concerns? Okay. Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call up County Clerk Renisa Abner. It's her report.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome Carter back. It's so good to see you. Happy birthday, Judge. I have payments to the county for the month of May 2018. We have excess fees in the amount of $86,668.78, and the total remitted to the county, $124,254.13. We are about $25,000 less than we took in last May, and that was due to fewer delinquent taxes, deeds, and mortgages this month or in May. So that's what that shows.
And the fewer delinquent taxes thing is a nice trend. I know you've done a good job collecting. And any other questions for Renisa? I'd like to take a motion to accept these, and then I want you to stay there for 1 second. So
Okay.
Is there a motion to accept the?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson. Magistrate Todd.
I do want you to help me prepare the court a little bit for something we need to be thinking about in the next year or two. As you know, Renisa is in charge of all the election equipment in our county, and that election equipment is getting towards the end of its life, and it's not there yet, but it's looking at retirement homes situations at the moment, in a matter of speaking. The challenge is this equipment is not inexpensive. Remind me that replacing all of the 70 voting machines we have, 70 odd,
Something like that, yeah.
would be on the order of $550,000 to $560,000. We need to begin to plan a little bit, I think, in the next couple fiscal years of replacing those in sections, maybe half or a third a year until we're successful in replacing those. We did not anticipate having to do that this next fiscal year, so it's not included, but I think we need to begin to plan that way, and I wanted to give Renisa the chance to say anything she wanted to about that because we haven't talked about it yet, but I know it's been something that's been on your mind.
Yes, we do have increasing maintenance costs associated with the machines just because of their age, and there's new equipment and technology that's out that's it's not more accurate, I'll say that, but it makes the job a little easier, and it makes for better elections. And we all know that's a duty. I mean, we are charged with that duty, and we have to have accurate equipment. And if something breaks, it doesn't matter how much it costs. We have to have it fixed. So the older the machine gets, that just increases every year. So it's just something that we really are going to have to look at. And, unfortunately, they're expensive. I mean, that's just the nature of it.
So beginning this year and into next year, I'm going to work with Renisa to kind of develop a plan over the next couple of fiscal years to replace these machines. Anybody who'd like to help with that or volunteer with that, let me know, and we can work on it. I think if we plan well enough ahead, it won't be too painful to budget for, but I do think we have to start thinking about it. So thank you very much, and we will begin the process of planning for those replacements.
Thank you.
Can I ask her a question?
Sure.
When you were saying sort of on the taxes that have past due delinquent taxes, you said less was paid this year?
As far as collected in my office.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that the sheriff didn't collect them on. I mean, that's when the sheriff, they pay them in the sheriff's office, then that means they don't come to me for collection.
Okay.
So, that's good. People are paying them
Well, that's what was going to be my
appropriately
question.
and on time. So
Right.
that's a good thing.
So the taxes were paid better. It wasn't that there's a
Right.
receivable out there that more people have not paid.
Exactly.
Okay. That's
yeah.
what I wanted
It
to
just
know.
results
Yeah.
in a lower amount that we collect.
Gotcha.
So,
Over the past several years, with
Right.
the tax bills going out earlier, we've seen an uptick on that initial payment, which has led to them being paid down at the sheriff's office and not at the clerk's
Right.
office.
Which is
which is a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
it's a
when
good
you
thing.
answered it, I wasn't sure if
Yeah.
it was a good thing or not. So I wanted
Yeah.
It's less delinquent.
Less delinquent, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the good thing or not, a portion of those delinquent penalties do go to fund certain offices within the county.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's a good thing that people are paying their taxes early. However, that does have a fiscal impact on some offices.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Renisa.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, you have in your packets the sheriff's monthly reports. And after a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to approve those. If the sheriff would like to add anything to those?
So moved.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any other questions? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman,
Aye.
Magistrate Warren,
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson,
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander, Magistrate Todd.
You also have in your packets the 2017 tax settlements, franchise taxes, and oil tax reports. Notice that I believe the county either still owes or you owe us 7 cents. Is that right, Ed? I've got it in my pocket if you need it. Okay. Great job by your team getting with so tight the variances that are pretty impressive with that amount of money flowing through. But I'll also entertain a motion to approve those reports.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman,
Aye.
Magistrate Warren,
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander, Magistrate Wilkerson,
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
It's time for the second reading of the 2018-19 Henderson County budget. Again, we appreciate all the help that the department heads did in preparing this budget. The workshop went smoothly, and I'll call up Treasurer Brenda Ryder for any comments she'd like to make.
This is the second reading of the fiscal year 19 budget. The total amount of the budget is $28,062,571.12. A fund breakdown for that is the general fund total, $9,564,309.22. Road fund, $4,546,302.02. Jail fund, $8,965,420.59. LGEA fund, $1,107,914.82. State Grants Fund, $1,213,200. Federal Grants Fund, $167,944.48. Economic Development Fund, $110,000. Construction Project Bond Fund total, $2,387,479.99. Again, this is a total budget of $28,062,571.12. Also included with this budget is approving reoccurring expenses of utilities, phone, postage, payroll-related activities, as well as state, federal grants, and payments for construction and project bonds.
Motion to approve second reading.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions of Treasurer Ryder? Again, thank you to everybody who helped put this together. It's a solid budget. Coming on the heels of what looks like will be a solid ending to this fiscal year, so I'm very proud of the work. Any other comments or questions? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman?
Aye.
Magistrate Warren?
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander?
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson?
Aye.
Magistrate Todd?
Aye.
Thank you, and you also have in your packets, if you don't mind hanging out just a little bit, Treasurer Ryder. You also have in your packets our annual approval of county employees for the coming year. Usually we've done this in July the last couple of years, but we really should have been doing it in June. So we're going to do it in June this year. And again, this is a list of all county employees and positions, vacant or occupied, and salaries. And we need to read a resolution and then approve those. So I will let the clerk read that resolution, please.
A resolution relating to the Henderson County Fiscal Court reappointing county employees for the fiscal year 2018-2019. Whereas the Judge Executive is authorized to reappoint county employees with the approval of the Fiscal Court pursuant to KRS 67.7107, whereas pursuant to KRS 64.530, the Fiscal Court wishes to fix the reasonable compensation of every county officer and employee except those named in KRS 64.535, and whereas the statute requires that all the fiscal court fix the reasonable compensation of all employees, even elected officials, which are not specifically exempted, now therefore be it resolved by the Fiscal Court, County of Henderson, Kentucky, as follows. Pursuant to KRS 64.530, the reasonable compensation of all full-time, part-time, and seasonal employees of the county, other than those employees enumerated in KRS 64.535, is fixed in accordance with the attached list of said employees and their compensation, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein.
Entertain a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Comments? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman?
Aye.
Magistrate Warren?
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander?
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson?
Aye.
Magistrate Todd?
Aye.
Now I need to, I'd like a motion to go into public hearing to discuss our LGEA spending, which Treasurer Ryder will describe in a moment. This is a requirement every year to have public hearing about our LGEA and coal severance funds. They're spent in the LGEA fund. You have a motion to go into public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now in public hearing, and Treasurer Ryder, you give us a briefing, please.
The LGEA funds, which are the Local Government Economic Assistance Funds, for fiscal year 19, the anticipated revenues, as in the budget, are mineral tax $337,107.73, waste hauling permits $100,000, coal severance $30,068.26. The coal severance is because Henderson County is deemed an impact county. Additional funds for LGEA will be transferred from the general fund to the LGEA fund. The primary uses for these funds are public safety, solid waste and sanitation, and other general services for the public, such as the Senior Citizens Program, Humane Society, and so on.
I welcome now any members of the public who would like to make comment about our use of LGEA fund, county road funds, and coal severance funding for these purposes. Going once, again, I ask again, twice. Anybody like to make a public comment? And one more time, a third ask. Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion now to go out of public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we're out of public hearing. We don't need action on those, if I believe correctly, other than the chance to give the public to weigh in on our use of coal severance funding and mineral taxes. And as you well know, we support a wide variety of organizations and efforts in our LGE fund. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now we have claims.
Do you need to do county road aid? We need to do a hearing for county road aid also.
I'll entertain a motion to go to public hearing on county road aid.
So move. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, county road aid.
County road aid is primarily funded by the state motor fuel tax and is to be used for construction and maintenance of county roads. The fiscal year 19 budget for this is $1,279,292. Approximately 60% of this will be received by Henderson County August of 2018, with an additional 30 to 35% to be received January of 2019, and the remainder to be received July of 2019.
Any members of the public who'd like to comment about our use of county road aid? Going once? Twice? Any comment? Third time? I have to ask 3 times, according to state law. Thank you. I entertain a motion to go out of public hearing on county road aid, please.
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're out of public hearing on county road aid. Can we move on to claims?
Thank you, Brenda.
These are the bank balances after paying claims today. The overall funds for the appropriations for the county finished at approximately 77%. I have additional claims to ask for requests today from the general fund to Ron's Automotive in the amount of $4,984.36. This is 2 invoices for sheriff vehicle repair. The second to Purcell Tire in the amount of $723.76. This is for sheriff's vehicle repair. The third to James Darcy in the amount of $600. This is for county attorney office renovations to be taken from the courthouse renewals and repairs line. Fourth, Tri-State Lighting in the amount of $2,371.87. This is for courthouse renewals and repairs. 5, Cummins Sales and Service in the amount of $1,573.16. This is for judicial center expenses. From the LGEA fund to the Henderson County Water District in the amount of $4,000. This is for a water line installation on the Ed Odie Road, which was approved in June of 2017. Also, if the Kendall-Tyson agreement is final, I would request from the Economic Development Fund in the amount of $22,750 to Kendall for the Tyson project, which has been amended into this budget.
Just to reiterate what you said at the beginning, our budgeted expenses overall for the county are going to finish at about 70% of budget. Is that what you meant?
Yes, sir. That's the appropriated part, yes.
I would argue it's excellent performance, 77% of budget on expenses. Very good. Entertain a motion to approve claims.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other questions of Treasurer Ryder? Please call for a vote.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
Thank you. Finally, I think you have some balance transfers. If you wouldn't mind taking a chance to glance over those and consideration of the time, I just thought I'd give you a moment to review those. Most of them are small. I think there's one you wanted to point out.
You will notice that there is additional funds being transferred for the ambulance. What that represents is primarily the county's cost of the ambulance, as well as a $10,000 grant, which was received and deposited by the county for the ambulance service in August of 2017. You will also see that there is some money being transferred into the LGEA fund, and that is to complete the remaining commission collected by the Sheriff's Department for the $55 parcel fees on the November 2017 tax bills. After the expenses were paid, there was approximately $6,400 left to be distributed among 10 entities, which are in your claims today.
Give you a chance to review those a little bit more if you want. And ask any questions.
Judge, are we going to do these one at a time, or can we do it as the just blanket?
You're going to do it as a whole.
I move that we approve the transfers.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson. Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
Thank you.
And thanks again, both to the work of Treasurer Ryder and all the department heads as we come down to the end of this fiscal year. We're in very good financial condition against budget, and that's always good to see. It takes a lot of hard work throughout the year to make sure we meet budget or better budget, and we're doing that. Magistrate Todd, you wanted to bring up a little bit about Toy-Anthoston Road.
Yeah, we have, there's a, Toy-Anthoston is a major cut through from Highlander Acres and Zion area where teachers travel and farmers travel to get to Niagara. Teachers travel to Niagara School. It's getting less and less. I know we had a lot of rain, but it's getting less and less of rainfall. It causes mud to flow across the road well before it floods. We've got a sign that says road may flood, which is good, but the mud is about an inch thick before it ever floods. And this last couple of rainfalls we've had 6 accidents on that road since the last couple of months. In my opinion, we need to do something with that road pretty quickly. Before we do have a lady that says her car was damaged and she's having it serviced and looked at, and she'll probably be coming to us for some.
It's a good thing Rob's here today, I guess. Mr. Huback, would you mind coming and talking a little bit about Toy-Anthoston? I know you've been trying to address this or looking at it hard.
As you may know, Toy-Anthoston Road has had a long history of flooding. Here just lately, we've had the wettest year on record so far, including many 2-inch plus rains in short period of time, flash flooding. What happens is the water comes down, and it's not just Toy-Anthoston Road. It's also Airline Road, comes across the state road there. It jumps it, major drainage way coming down in behind there. And what happens at Toy-Anthoston in the drainage area is it comes up against some levees that have been built, which causes the water to back up and stagnate right there and deposit all the sediment. So unless the fiscal court is looking to take action to have them remove the levees so that the water will disperse and go down and not back up like it does, there's not a whole lot we can do unless they want to elevate the road and put a bridge in that would cost over $500,000 to do such a project because the size of the bridge that would have to take place. The road has been posted according to the Uniform Traffic Control on both ends. We have ordered more signs due to the flash flooding that has occurred this year, and we will post them closer to the areas. And I say areas because Toyann Dawson, it not only jumps in that one area where the accidents occur the most, but there's 2 other areas it does. So we ordered more signs, and they will be posted by the end of the month. But other than that, it's a situation that I don't have a quick answer for. It's not a simple fix by any means, and I'm open for suggestions. You've seen it.
I was going to say, signage is one of the things we've been contemplating if we could improve and get a little bit more warning. I wonder if we can see how that goes for a bit. We're out of rainy season, at least theoretically, but I understand that there's no simple fix here.
No, I understand that, but we can't continue to have accidents on there or somebody's going to get hurt.
Well,
the rain and the signs, posted signs, road may flood or posted mud. We have to do something to keep that mud off. Keep the mud off the road. If we have to go out there and grade it as soon as it quits raining or something, because come around that curve over that hill and there's your mud and you're traveling and it's like driving on ice.
Do we have any legal recourse with levees that are causing such damage?
Well, that would have to be something that would have to be taken up with Mr. Gold and conferred with him about that, and I'm sure because the people that built the levees are not going to want to extinguish them.
There's no more ditch. We can do ditch work or anything. I know one side.
The ditches, it's not a question of the ditch. It's a question of the major drainage way. The ditches on the side of the road are as deep as we can go. When you have the road elevation like the floor of the courtroom right here, and you have a levee that's up above my head, and the water comes down and goes over top of the road and then tries to be funneled into a levee system that goes down there. All this water that has accumulated, all the sediment in it, comes through a brick wall to try to go in there, and then it just settles out. I don't know how you could do it, how you could build the road up high enough to do that. One of the problems is the people that drive that road know that it floods, know that it gets the mud over it, and drive on extremely fast rate of speed. The road is an unposted road. It's 55 miles an hour, and the signs are there. The only thing I know what to do is you'd have to go out there, and how can you do it when there's flash flooding, to go out there and put barricades up and close the road?
Something we can study and maybe come up with some sort of formal game plan?
It needs to happen. That road's a dangerous road, so I'm just bringing it up. I understand I'm not advocating we do anything with the levees. I'm just advocating that road is a dangerous road.
It is.
Or we wouldn't have 4, 5, 6 people running off of it, damaging. You got school teachers. Something needs to be looked at and done.
Understand.
Okay.
When we reconvene on that topic in a month,
Yep. That's good.
Think about possible adjustments we can make, both short-term and long-term.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to have Mr. Todd go with me out there,
Yep.
and we can put together some kind of a presentation to bring back to court the next month. time permits. I'm not saying the next fiscal court meeting, but maybe the second one in the month of July, where we could have something to present for everybody to look at.
Be glad to.
Okay?
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Gold, your payments.
All right, Judge, we've got several things here. I've actually got 2 rounds of payment for you. One came in yesterday, and I knew we'd want to get it in this fiscal year. My first set is a check for salaries, FICA, and retirement, $3,054.13. A supplement to an assistant county attorney's salary, $458.33. Dental life insurance, $331.69 and $7.36. Health insurance, $7,562.73 and $544.49. Payment for use of a county vehicle, $255.84, bringing the fiscal year, or bringing today's total for this batch to $12,214.57, and the fiscal year total to $137,772.57. And then there was a late addition, a check for $8,500 for HRA reimbursement to the county of $8,500, bringing the fiscal year total to date to $146,272.57.
Motion to accept those, please.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Mr. Gold? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman?
Aye.
Magistrate Warren?
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander?
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson?
Aye.
Magistrate Todd?
Aye.
We'll move in to go to the county now, and I want to invite to the podium Mr. Mark Franklin from Stoll, Keenan, Ogden. Brought to my attention late last week a proposal for some assistance to a local company. And it was a little bit different than bond issues that we have done in the past, and I wanted, instead of trying to explain this myself, just have him come before you and spell out what he's proposing and get your feedback. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Franklin. You can introduce your guests too, please.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Judge. I understand it's your birthday. I have with me Brian Memmer. He is the plant manager for SCAPS, which used to be Matrix Composites here in Henderson. They make fiberglass products. On April 30th, Matrix was sold to a new owner called SCAPS, which is a Georgia corporation. SCAPS is in the process of trying to obtain permanent financing for the purchase and acquisition of the company with Wells Fargo. So my firm was contacted last week, or maybe shortly before that, by Wells Fargo. They had determined that the financing may qualify for tax-exempt financing through a bond issue, and asked if we could possibly serve as bond counsel for that. We were happy to help, and we contacted the judge and began discussions about that. And so the judge asked if I could come today. So we are under a little bit of a deadline. Since they purchased the facility in late April, and actually paid cash, the cash is out the door, so to speak, in order to achieve a bond issue at a later date, which would be at a later date, we would like to include the costs of the original purchase in the bond issue as well from April. So the cost of buying the existing facility and the existing equipment. Under federal tax law, to do that, we have to have the issuer of the bonds, which we would ask the county to consider to be the issuer for that, to adopt a resolution agreeing to be the bond issuer in the future, subject to conditions, whatever conditions the county may impose. And that would allow us to reach back 60 days, which would include the cost of SCAPS purchasing the facility and the equipment. So that we've been a little bit of a rush just getting contacted by Wells Fargo. So that's put us under a little bit of a time crunch, which is why we're here today. We have prepared a resolution for the fiscal court, which I have a copy of that I can provide, if that's okay.
Yep.
To the fiscal court member. The purpose of the resolution is to acknowledge the county's preliminary agreement to serve as issuer of bonds for SCAPS Industries. The actual approval of the bonds would be contained within an ordinance to be prepared and provided to the county at a later date. Now, why a bond issue? What was the benefit of this? What's the reason for it? The benefit of a bond issue versus just the bank could just give a conventional commercial loan to SCAPS to finance the facility. The benefit of a bond issue is that the interest rate is lower. That's what it boils down to. If it's a tax-exempt bond, the interest is lower, which saves the company money. And in order to achieve that, the bond, which is basically the loan instrument, has to be issued through a state or political subdivision, which would be the county, since the facility is located within the county's jurisdiction. And that's a federal income tax requirement. So if the facility can be financed through a tax-exempt bond, then the bank will not have to pay income tax on the interest it receives, so it can loan money to SCAPS at a lower interest rate. That's how that works. So that's why we're here today. So the resolution authorizes the bonds in a preliminary way for the county to serve as issuer. Says that at a later date, we will provide the actual authorizing documents to the county for review and approval. But this will allow us to satisfy the tax rules by trying to capture the cost of the actual building and existing equipment into the bond issue.
A couple of important points here. In the past we've issued industrial revenue bonds, which are different instruments than what we're talking about today. In this case, the county would be under no obligation to provide any funding for the company. It would be a conduit from Wells Fargo to the company. It wouldn't cost us anything, wouldn't count against our bonding capacity. It wouldn't be a property tax abatement in any way. Am I right so far, Mark?
That's absolutely right. These bonds are not secured or payable through the county's general credit or funds. They were payable solely by revenues to be provided by SCAPS to the bank. The bank has no expectation of any payment from the county for any of this, and SCAPS will pay all costs associated with the bond issue.
It just gives them a bit of a tax advantage on the interest, and enough to pass along some savings to this company and to help secure this deal. It is not too dissimilar, if you remember, gentlemen, from the bond that you helped Methodist Hospital secure to do some of their expansion. If you recall, I don't know, that was probably 5 or 6 years ago. It was a pass-through bond issue. They had to come to the county to get that done, but it was their responsibility to pay it back. It's not an obligation to the county.
Did the same thing. Zion Baptist Church did the same thing, didn't they?
That is one form of this type of bond, is that you can do that with nonprofit organizations, but you can also do it with private entities like SCAPS.
That's correct. State law allows you to loan to any type of corporation. So that can be a nonprofit, such as a hospital or a nursing home or a private school or even a church in some instances. Or you can also use a public corporation. I do a lot of these for public utilities who have certain facilities that qualify for tax-exempt financing, like solid waste facilities or sewage facilities. So large utilities often do this with counties as well. In this case, this is a small manufacturing facility. The amount of money to be borrowed on relative terms is fairly small, and so that fits within a definition or a category of tax-exempt bonds that's eligible under the federal tax code for tax-exempt financing in this case.
Is there a reason that you're coming to us now after your closing? Typically, we see this before somebody purchases something. The purchase, you said, was completed in April, and now you're talking about this because you've got a 60-day look back, and you're right at the end of that 60-day look back, right?
Correct. My understanding is the bank knew this was a possibility, but they thought the dollar amounts wouldn't work. And then once the purchase was completed and they talked to the company about any improvements they may want to make, they decided it was worth pursuing this. So that's why the call to us was late from the bank. But I understand from Brian that the facility is in need of some capital improvements, and so they've already been making, in addition to the purchase price, they've already fixed a few things around the facility. They've already kept spending money since they purchased it. So those are other costs we want to include in the bond issue.
So we have a couple choices here. You have this resolution in front of you, and for want of a better term, I've labeled it a placeholder resolution where we would agree to help them meet this deadline of the end of the month. that we would agree to issue this sort of bond, and then allow them at a later date to come back to us with the exact details of the bond, the scope of the bond, the amount of the bond, and then give us another chance to say yes or no. Right, we do have the ability to, in the end, say no.
Absolutely, because the bonds themselves will be authorized by an ordinance. So we will come back at a later date with the actual bond documents that will contain all the terms in an authorizing ordinance that will require 2 readings and publication of a notice of intended adoption and passage. And so we'll go through that normal process, and the county and county attorney will have full opportunity to review all those documents and comment.
Can you explain where in the document that we have in front of us it specifically says that the county would have the authority to not go through with this? Because I see a whole lot of the county will and the county shall in
Sure.
there, and not the county may.
Sure. So there are wills and shalls in the resolution, but those wills and shalls relate to basically things that the county will do if it agrees to go forward. So, for example, if the county would agree to issue the bonds, the county judge will sign them, which is typical, and the fiscal clerk would attest them, or the bonds will contain terms about the interest rate or the repayment terms and things like that, or how the proceeds are loaned to SCAPs to be spent. Those are more of the wills and shalls. Or the bonds will contain statements saying that they're not payable with the revenues of the county. So those are more of the wills and shalls. One place it shows up is on the first page of the resolution in the whereases. In the second whereas paragraph, it says the county has agreed with the company to issue one or more series of revenue bonds for the company upon compliance by the company with certain conditions, requirements, and obligations, and subject to the approval of the county of all terms of all agreements, ordinances, and other documents required. So that's drafted to give you the broadest possible terms.
However, you and I are
yes or
both
no.
aware that whereas clauses are complete surplusage and don't actually enter into any construction when somebody is construing what happens.
Right,
Whereas
right.
is
And well, that's one reason I always say in Section 1 that the recitals are incorporated by reference. I always do that in my documents, but also in the memorandum of agreement, I also put language in Section 2, which is the actual agreement. In order to satisfy the tax rules, we need to show some preliminary agreement between the county and the company. I mean, if this was just a county inducement resolution for your own part, say you wanted to finance improvements to your jail or to this building, you could do an inducement resolution and it would be a page and a half. It could be a lot shorter because you wouldn't be dealing with a third party like you are in this. But in this case, since there's another company involved, it's a little longer document. But in Section 2 of the Memorandum of Agreement, I basically use the same basic broad language, really intended to give you the fullest possible discretion to say if there's anything in the final bond documents you don't like, you don't have to follow through with it. And I'll just say generally, this is a benefit that you provide of your own goodwill to the company. If you don't want to provide the benefit, you don't have to. I mean, we're here asking you to do this. You don't have to do it. And we understand that, and the company understands it. Brian and I talked about this. I mean, if you don't want to do it, I can't imagine the company wants to fight with the county about it. I mean, we're just asking you to provide this benefit.
And I'm not arguing for or against. I just,
Yeah.
when the statement was made that it's basically just a placeholder resolution, I'm not sure that's 100% accurate, and I think there are some agreements that we are making here when we pass this.
It is a
Because
preliminary
otherwise the
agreement.
IRS wouldn't require it, right?
Right. It is a preliminary agreement. That's right.
So I want to be clear that this,
Yeah.
if you do this, or if you pass this, it's probably going to happen.
Right. But in my view, if Mr. Gold doesn't like terms in the actual bond documents, he has the ability to say, I don't like these, and we won't sign them unless you change them. And that's totally fair.
That's what I was going to say. Could in our motion, assuming we get that far, could the motion not read with an addendum to the agreement that the county would not be held responsible to agree with all the terms as could we not? I'm not going to ask you. Excuse me. I'll ask you. Could we not protect ourselves to some extent in the way the motion is read, that we're going to be offering that
Well, that's a little bit of a problem for them because
Yes.
the more wishy-washy we
I
make
agree.
it, the less likely the IRS is to like it. Correct?
That's true, yes.
So it's, that's why I want to say, we can't be too wishy-washy about this because otherwise it doesn't help them.
Right.
So, and that's why I was pushing back a little bit again, about the, just placeholder language there, because this, there is an actual commitment that we're making there to an extent. Now, there are some ways that, it could end up not going through and things like that, but it is, like you said, a preliminary commitment, and there are some things that once we make that commitment that the county shall do.
It's also, it's also subject to other conditions, such as my own due diligence as the bond counsel to make sure that I can give an opinion that it qualifies under the tax rules. And I have not had an opportunity to do that myself. And if it does, I won't give an opinion if it doesn't qualify. So there are other qualifications at play as well. So we may not get there, lots of things have to line up for it to happen.
I know you're up against a deadline here, but would it make sense for us to take a few days and look this over and collectively get back together, maybe with a special meeting to address it? Kind of hard to digest, in 15, 20 minutes, that we're going over here. And I see Steve has raised a flag in my mind, so I'd feel more comfortable giving this a little due diligence to it with a little more time.
That was the other option we had today, was to accept the documents, give us a chance to read them, and then if we wanted to move forward, call a special called meeting before the deadline they have, which is June 29th, and make a vote. And that's fine with me.
I'd feel a little more comfortable with it, to be honest with you.
And I want to be clear, I'm not trying to put the brakes on things. It
No,
sounds
I understand,
welcome
Steve,
to
but-
Henderson, we're not trying to put,
Yeah.
but however, I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on exactly what's happening, and that this is something that usually happens before a closing, and we have a little more lead time to kind of look at these things, and the fiscal court has a little more time to think about them. So certainly not trying to mess up your deal here in any way, but I do think there is some wisdom to that.
So let us do that. Let us take these documents.
Okay.
And we will set a special called meeting as soon as possible. And in the interim, review these, and feel free, if you don't mind me saying, to check with Mr. Gold on any questions you might
Absolutely.
have. We can bring some questions back to that special called meeting to further the discussion, and then have a vote, if that's okay with everybody.
I would appreciate if we could do it before the 28th. I think the 28th.
Well,
is
we'd have to either do it Monday or Tuesday because there's a conference Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and you're out the rest of this week. So the only 2 days are Monday and Tuesday next week.
We will get it on the calendar ASAP.
Okay.
I
Thank you very
have
much.
one question for you. Now, I want to make sure that on the existing facility, as it's already been there and on the tax roll, there's absolutely no abatement or any type of tax abatement for existing facility.
That's right. This resolution does not approve any property tax abatement
Okay.
of the existing facility.
I mean, I will read this, but I thought I'd get the
Right.
short version by asking.
That's correct, Brett. That's right. This is just a federal income tax resolution, not a state property tax
Gotcha.
abatement resolution.
Mr. Gold, can you remind me the legal advertising requirement on a special called meeting? Is it 7 days or is it 4 to 8 hours?
It's either 24 or 48 hours.
Yeah.
I'll double
A little
check.
flexible. Thank you very much. We're going to get a special called meeting on the calendar as quickly as possible, and we will reconvene.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here today. So if anybody else would like to approach and speak for the good of the county?
Mike,
Morning.
Mike, before you start, I just want to clarify, KRS 61.823 does require a 24-hour notice before a special meeting.
Thank you. I want to just thank you again for allowing us to work on the insurance business for the county. I want to respond to Rob's comment. I'm not saying that CAECO program is not adequate, but I'm saying there are limits. They just expressed that the county's insurance coverage limits have been the same since 1987. We've changed a tremendous amount since 1987. And our limits for general liability, public officials liability, employment practices, law enforcement, sexual abuse, and non-owned auto, as well as auto limits, were $10 million. We presented those. And the reason that's important is the county's not the only one named in a lawsuit. You know, sheriff, the jailer, the department heads, as well as the public officials are named in a lawsuit. And if you only have $3 million limits and you have a claim that exceeds that, who's on the hook for that? And that's my concern, because you're my friends, they're my friends, and I want to see them be protected. And so that was my concern right out of the gate, and I expressed that with the judge and as well as some other coverages. So that is some of the things that reasons why I see that is hugely important, you know, that your insurance coverage changes as you change. Back in 1996, we had 32 autos. Now we have over 100. We've got 200 and something employees. Much different, and that's what I want to see. You tailor your insurance to cover these people, because your employees, yourselves, and your department heads, they need to be protected. Thank you.
Anybody else for the good of the county?
I have good news. I'm bringing good news. This is a change order, and it's on our construction account. And I just need a signature from you if you all would like to take a look at it. It's a credit we're going to be receiving back. We're coming in significantly under on the construction project.
Is this something we need to take action on in any way?
Yeah, they said I had to take it because it changed the bond amounts that we were originally agreed to pay Danco.
So can you summarize these for the court? I mean, can you,
Yes.
Can I? Yeah. Okay.
Because the bond was in the county's name and not the jail's, then I would just need fiscal court's approval and your signature on it. The original contracted sum was $1,969,500. With us doing some of the work, purchasing our own kitchen equipment, we saved quite a bit. And Hubiak and I had some additional work done at the jail that needed to be done. It was all included in here, so even with all of that work, the new contract sum would be $1,778,259.35. So it's rare you come in under on a project like that.
So we need to accept a change order to that effect. Anybody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? It's always good to save money. Come in under budget. Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
Get with me right after, Amy, and I'll get these back to you. Make sure
Okay,
I'm signing
thank
in
you.
the right place. Anybody else like to speak for the good of the county, please? Any members of the audience? Okay. Magistrate Putman.
Thank you, Judge. First of all, happy birthday. You're 40-year-old. You're holding up well. But appreciate all the comments that were made today. Rob, Mike, thank you guys for all the work that went into this insurance. I know it was a very difficult subject, hard for us to deal with, but I think we're happy with the end results. And other than that, Judge, all is good in the fourth.
Thank you. Magistrate Warren.
I'd like to have, maybe at the, I don't know about the next meeting, but at a future meeting, Bill, while you're here, if we could have something looked at as far as the Canoe Creek area there behind Pleasant View to see if there's any funding in the Canoe Creek funding program that the city has used and the county has used. Just because I know, again, this year with the downpours that we had, there was some flooding that took place, and I don't know if there's any money to where we can clean that section of ditch out. I know I've talked to them before, and it was very limited, and so I don't know if there's any left or any money that can be used in the Canoe Creek. But it's right there in that area, right? And you and I have been out there before, but it continues to be a problem. So if we do that,
I can answer that real quickly. I think, George, if you don't mind being on the board, there is money, but I think the last meeting we've had, which we had one in a while, and let's see, too bad, is that it's been dedicated. I mean, we've allocated it out for not saying we can't move it around, but.
And it may already be.
There is, but we've got projects that we've got determined, but I mean, you may bring it to the flood mitigation board and see what we do.
That may be the best thing to do, is to the next meeting bring that concern
to them. To them. And the last thing would be, and I don't know if we need to go. I'd like look at the option on that property that the jail has looked at from an option standpoint. And I know that as far as we're on a time frame, and I noticed that Hal's here today, and I'm sure you were expecting to see whether it was going to be in an email that I did receive from Hal. They being the Danheisers, wanted it to be on a meeting, the next following meeting possibly of when that email was received. So I didn't know if we could just go in executive. I'd like to go in an executive session to discuss the acquisition of property.
So I have a motion to go into executive session based on KRS. This is in negotiation of property.
Which publicity would affect the sales price. That does
So I have a motion
fall
to go
under
into
an
executive session.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll hang tight. We'll be right back. I need a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank goodness. All right. Master Warren, anything else?
No, that's it.
Master Alexander, anything for the good of the county?
I'm good.
Master Wilkerson, again, welcome back. Glad you're feeling better. Anything for the good of the county?
We're good.
Master Todd, anything for the good of the county?
I'm good.
Mr. Gold.
Well, Judge, happy birthday, and thank you for coming out and emceeing some of the Blues and Barbecue Festival this past weekend. Always an excellent job. Do want to update the court on one issue that came up. Hopefully it will be good news. Hopefully we'll have more good news to share soon. We've discussed several times over the years the concept of applying for a rocket docket grant that would not only help the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office and the jail, but it would also help get nonviolent offenders to treatment and things like that quicker. It should have an effect on the bottom line of the jail as well. The Attorney General's Office, the Prosecutor's Advisory Council, opened the window up for those grants June 1 and closed it June 15. So it was an incredibly tight window to get a full grant application in. And with a ton of work from Kyle Evans and Ashley Hampton in my office and Chris Grillen at the jail, and we got some additional information from Herbie McKee, we were able to get that application together and got all of that sent out. Not quite the last minute, but just about. Since we were a new application, it was a little bit more difficult than somebody just rolling over their prior application. But they should be making a decision on that soon, and hopefully will get approved for that. They were very glad to hear that Henderson County was applying for that. Apparently, they had looked at us over the years and said that they felt that it would be appropriate for Henderson County, and do think all of those folks that worked really hard on that, particularly Chris at the jail and Kyle and Ashley in my office, and one of the holdups previously had been that it required both my signature and Mr. Markwell's signature. He did agree to be on board this time, and so that got sent off, and hopefully good things come from it.
Thank you for working hard to get that done, Steve. I know you went above and beyond there. Hopefully that pays off. Would like to congratulate the WC Handy Committee for another outstanding festival. Friday and Saturday night, Audubon Mill Park was packed. Downtown was packed. The restaurants downtown were packed. A lot of visitors came in and enjoyed downtown Henderson and the great music and spent a lot of money while they were here, which is part of the goal. And I think you hit the target right, dead center. I had a great time. I know my guests, some of whom had never been to the festival before, had a wonderful time. So please pass along our sincere congratulations to the organizing committee. We're proud to support it as fiscal court, and it really is money that brings back a lot of return. Glad to see it. I want to again say thank you to our guests for joining us today, Mark, and the team at Matrix. We'll work through that, and we'll be in touch soon about a special called meeting. Thanks again to Rob Brown for work, and for Mike Hazelwood, helping us make sure that we're minding all of our P's and Q's with all aspects of our budget. And also welcome Kurt Wiesen, kind of feeling more comfortable in the saddle, I think. Reading resolutions and ordinances can be a big challenge, and I think he's getting better. And his sign is officially up, so you've got it whether you want it or not.
Stay now, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Hey, can I say something about Kurt? I really thank you for putting our paperwork in order.
Yeah.
It was just like the agenda in the back. I mean, that's great.
I can tell a difference.
It works good like that. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
You have a motion and a second. All those in favor can leave.
So that kind of says your organization, right?
And Judge, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Good luck, Ted.
I feel like it. Thank you. Thank you.